So I want you to try visualizing something for a second. If you look at a $1 bill or, the presidential seal of the United States, what do you see? You see a bald eagle.
Right.
And then if you go and look at the coat of arms for the Russian Federation, you see an eagle again. But this time it has two heads.
Yeah, the double-headed eagle.
Exactly. And for centuries, we've basically been taught by historians and political scientists to just chalk this up to basic heraldry, right? It's just graphic design. Or maybe a shared desire to project intimidation.
Sure, it's just branding for empires.
Right. But we're taught to look at the geopolitical map of the world through this lens of pure strategic logic. We view a nation's military strength and its economic foundation as the direct result of human decisions. Resources, geography, borders.
The standard historical framework.
Exactly. But today we're doing a deep dive into an esoteric ancient source text that claims, it claims those specific eagles weren't a human choice at all.
Which is a pretty massive claim to make. It's huge. This framework argues that modern geopolitical realities are actually the physical manifestation of cosmic energy highways, and that this is dictated entirely by whether a nation draws its power from the moon or from the sun.
I mean, it is a premise that completely upends our conventional understanding of history.
It really does.
We are so accustomed to viewing the rise and fall of empires as this ground-up process, right?
Both.
Someone builds a better ship, someone else invents a better weapon, borders are drawn, and then power is established.
Yeah, it's all very cause and effect on a human level.
Right. But the source material we are exploring today forces us to look from the top down. It suggests that human action is, merely the localized expression of a much larger, highly structured cosmic architecture.
So let's talk about the source material itself. It's a fascinating philosophical dialogue originally translated from Hindi.
And it features this conversation between two friends. There's Rakesh, who is essentially serving as the curious seeker, kind of like us, trying to understand the mechanics of history and spirituality. And then there's Abhinav, who possesses this incredibly deep understanding of esoteric knowledge.
And their entire dialogue really revolves around decoding one specific ancient concept, which is known as Daiva.
Daiva.
Right. Now, at its most basic translation, Daiva means cosmic destiny or divine power.
Which sounds very abstract, like a blessing.
Exactly. It sounds like a vague blessing from the universe. But as Rakesh and Abhinav unpack it, Daiva becomes less of a mystical concept and much more of a literal energetic physics.
Okay, energetic physics.
Okay.
What is the mission for us today then, unpacking this?
Well, our mission in this deep dive is to decode how that singular cosmic energy actually splits into 4 distinct forces, and then how it travels through these celestial highways to empower specific nations.
Which brings us back to the eagles.
Right, the eagles. We'll look at how ancient shifts in these power symbols actually explain the rise and fall of historical empires, and why this matters to you, the listener, today.
Because it's not just a history lesson, is it?
No, not at all. It is a framework for understanding how macrocosmic forces, things like leadership, military might, knowledge, conscience, how all of that trickles down into our modern everyday decision-making.
Wow. Okay, so let's start with the anatomy of this energy, this concept of Daiva.
Yeah, let's get into it.
The source identifies Daiva as the direct manifestation of a supreme cosmic power, specifically originating from Lord Vishnu. But there's a mechanical detail here that I found super interesting.
The fracturing of the energy.
Yes. When Daiva emerges from Brahma out into the galaxy, it doesn't just stay as one giant unified force.
Yeah.
The text says the Daiva element, the divine nature within it, actually causes the energy to fracture.
It splits into 4 highly specialized forms so it can actually operate within the physical world.
It's kind of like, think of it like white light hitting a prism, right?
That's a great analogy, yeah.
The singular light source is the ultimate divine energy. But a universe just can't function on raw, undifferentiated power. To build complex systems, like human societies or even just individual consciousness, that light has to refract into different spectrums.
And the source text actually names these 4 refracted forms of Daiva. They are Agni Vishnu, Brihaspati Vishnu, Indra Vishnu, and Garuda Vishnu.
Okay, let's break those down because the dialogue points out that each form has a dual role, right?
Right. There is the macro level, what the energy is doing out in the cosmos, and then the micro level, which is how that exact same energy functions inside the human mind.
So what's the first one?
The first form is Agni Vishnu. Now, on a cosmic scale, the text describes this as the fire god. It's a foundational element elemental force of the universe.
Okay.
But the internal human manifestation of Agni is where the philosophical weight of this text really begins to reveal itself. Inside a human being, Agni Vishnu manifests as Vivek.
Vivek.
Yeah. This is often translated as conscience or discernment, but the text goes a step further. It calls it the literal fire of knowledge.
I really want to unpack that phrasing, the fire of knowledge. Because when we normally think of fire in, our modern context, we almost always associate it with destruction or consumption.
But burning things down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in this esoteric framework, the fire of knowledge is an illuminating force. It's not the fire that burned your house to the ground. It's the torch that lights up a completely pitch black room so you can actually see the furniture you're about to trip over.
That's exactly it. Vivek is the internal mechanism that allows a person to distinguish between truth and illusion.
To see clearly.
Right, to see the difference between a righteous path and a completely destructive one. And the necessity of that illuminating fire really cannot be overstated in this philosophy.
Why is that?
Because without Agni, without that foundational Vivek, you lack the capacity for moral orientation. I mean, you might have intelligence, you might have incredible ambition, but you are effectively operating blind. The text positions this discernment as the absolute prerequisite for all other forms of power. If your conscience is clouded, the other three cosmic energies will inevitably be misused.
So it leads to tyranny instead of order.
Exactly. Tyranny or just outright collapse.
Okay, so if Agni is the radar system that identifies the right path, what is the second form?
The second form is Brihaspati Vishnu. And if Agni is the radar, Brihaspati acts as the engine that actually drives you down that path.
Cosmically, the source identifies Brihaspati as the planet Jupiter, right?
Yes, acting as the guru of the gods. And on the human level, this energy translates into what the text calls the Guru Tattva.
The guiding teacher element.
Exactly. And the translation of Guru Tattva is critical here. It is not just about accumulating data or getting a degree. It represents profound wisdom and moral fortitude.
The text mentions this form is worshipped in household traditions as Satyanarayan, doesn't it?
It does. But fundamentally, the dialogue makes a really sweeping claim about human nature here. It states that the active presence of Brihaspati energy within a person is the specific force that actually compels them to act righteously.
To act according to Dharma.
Right.
So we have this layered internal system taking shape. Agni gives you the ability to perceive what is right. But, perception alone doesn't guarantee action.
No, definitely not.
I mean, plenty of people know the right thing to do, but they completely lack the willpower to actually execute it.
That happens all the time.
Right. So Brihaspati provides the moral weight. It's the internal compulsion to align your actions with that higher truth, even when it is incredibly difficult. It's the bridge between knowing and doing.
That's a perfect way to put it. So that creates the internal foundation. But as we know, human history isn't shaped solely by internal contemplation.
Sadly, no.
Right. It is shaped by external action, conflict, organization. And this brings us to the third form of the refracted Daiva energy, which is Indra Vishnu.
And cosmically, this is described as the king of gods.
Yes. And on the human level, it provides the energy of leadership. The text uses the term Purush.
Purush.
Yeah, which signifies a vital masculine energy, a deep sense of valor and assertiveness.
So we're moving from the realm of the philosopher to the realm of the statesman here.
Exactly.
Indra energy is very outward-facing. It's the capacity to mobilize others, to cast a vision, to enforce order.
And the text points out that this energy has a highly specific trigger. When the Indra energy aligns with a living avatar or just an exceptional human leader, it becomes the catalyst for what the source calls Daiva karma.
Daiva karma. Monumental divine deeds.
Right. This is that charismatic force that shifts the paradigms of the world. It pulls masses of people toward a singular goal.
But even great leadership needs an instrument of enforcement, right? Especially in a physical world that is full of friction and competition.
Which necessitates the fourth, and definitely the most aggressive, manifestation of Daiva.
Garuda Vishnu?
Yes. Described in the cosmic realm as the great eagle.
There's the eagle.
There it is. And its functional role on Earth is pure, unadulterated physical force.
The text explicitly states that Garuda is the sheer power backing the great armies, militaries, and defensive capabilities of nations and empires.
Right. It's the muscle.
Okay, let's synthesize this framework for a second, because I want to think of these four energies as the critical components of a grand vehicle.
I like that.
So Agni is the sensory equipment, The radar and the headlights allowing you to perceive reality clearly in the dark.
Right.
Brihaspati is the internal steering column and the engine. It provides the moral direction and the motivation to actually move forward.
Yes.
Indra is the driver, the decisive consciousness making the commanding choices.
Okay.
And then Garuda is the armor plating and the raw horsepower. It ensures the vehicle can survive hostile environments and, crush obstacles if it needs to.
That's a really solid analogy. And the philosophy suggests that a perfect state of Daiva occurs only when all four of those are operating in complete harmony.
Complete harmony. The conscience guides the wisdom informs the leadership, and the leadership responsibly directs the military force.
That is the ideal. But the dialogue between Rakesh and Abhinav immediately pivots to the reality of human existence. Because the text openly acknowledges that these energies are almost never distributed equally.
Or maintained in perfect balance.
Exactly.
Okay, wait, I need to challenge the premise of the text here.
Go for it.
If this energy all originates from a singular divine source, Lord Vishnu, why is it so inherently unbalanced when it actually arrives on Earth? I mean, does the text imply that humans are just naturally flawed receptors of this energy? Or is there a mechanical reason why, say, one nation might be overflowing with Garuda military power while being completely bankrupt of the agni of a moral conscience?
It's a great question, and the text actually offers a strictly mechanical explanation. Rakesh uncovers this as he questions Abhinav about the logistics of this cosmic system.
Okay, so what is the mechanic?
Abhinav introduces a concept known as the Shishumara chakra.
Shishumara chakra.
Yes. Daiva does not just blanket the universe evenly, like, background radiation. It is actively routed through specific celestial conduits to reach the physical plane.
So you can envision the Shishumara chakra as like an intricate, vast highway system in the cosmos.
Oh, exactly. And the text outlines two profoundly different cosmic highways that deliver this energy to Earth. And it completely alters the nature of the power depending on which route the energy takes.
The two paths of power. Okay, this is where the esoteric philosophy starts to map directly onto the physical geography of our planet. Let's trace the first highway detailed in the source.
The Uttarana path.
Yes, the Uttarana path.
Yeah.
How does the text characterize it?
It is characterized by the text as male-dominant or Purusha energy, and it is symbolically represented by the shivling.
Oh, wait.
The routing of this energy is highly specific. It flows from the solar realm, passes through heaven, enters the sun itself, and then beams down to Earth.
But the crucial detail here is where it lands. The text insists that this solar energy does not just hit the Earth randomly. It lands specifically and exclusively upon the land.
The physical dirt.
Right. The bedrock, the continental plate.
Yes, and the text refers to the specific routing, this solar land-based path, as Vishnu's awakening time, or the day of heaven.
Because it originates from the sun.
Exactly. And because it strikes the solid Earth, the power generated on this path is described as active, radiant, static in its foundations, and fiercely territorial.
Fiercely territorial. That makes sense for land. Now, let's contrast the mechanics of that solar highway with the second route detailed in the dialogue.
The Dakshinayana path.
Right, and this is framed as the polar opposite in almost every respect, isn't it?
It really is. Where the Uttarayana path is male-dominant, the Dakshinayana path is described as nature-dominant, or Prakriti.
Okay.
And instead of the shivling, its symbol is the shivlingi. Plus, the cosmic routing is entirely different. Energy on this path flows from the lunar realm.
The lunar realm.
Yes, and it passes through a dimension the text calls Pitruluk.
Now, Pitruluk is identified as the realm of the ancestors, right?
It is.
That inclusion of the realm of ancestors is such a fascinating filter for this energy because it implies a cyclical nature, a connection to the past, to memory, to these deep underlying currents, rather than just the radiant immediate heat of the sun.
That's a really good observation. And from Pitruluk, the energy enters the moon, and from the moon, it beams down to Earth.
And just as the solar energy targets the land, this lunar energy lands specifically upon the water.
Right. It strikes the oceans, the rivers, the fluid, and shifting parts of the globe.
And the text designates this path as Vishnu's sleep, or the night of heaven.
Yes. The power derived from this highway is inherently fluid. It's cyclical, reflective, and deeply connected to movement and adaptation.
Much like water itself.
Exactly like water.
The geographical and geopolitical implications of this are staggering. I mean, we are looking at a diagnostic tool from antiquity that is drawing a hard, unyielding line between solar, land-based power, and lunar, water-based power.
Long before those concepts were formalized in modern military strategy.
Right. It is establishing a framework for understanding global dominance
Yes.
centuries before modern navies or continental armies even existed in the way we know them. But my question is, if this Shishimara chakra is actively routing energy today, how does this ancient binary account for the incredibly complex reality of modern superpowers? Can this text actually map these cosmic highways onto the modern world?
Well, that is the exact transition Abhinav makes in the dialogue. To prove the ongoing reality of Daiva, he points directly to the modern military-industrial complexes of the United States and Russia.
Oh, wow.
He argues that their dominance, their specific methods of projecting power, and even their national symbols are direct, unavoidable results of the specific cosmic highway they sit upon.
Okay, let's delve deeply into the text's analysis of the United States then.
Yeah.
Because the source explicitly claims that the USA receives its portion of Daiva through the Dakshinayana path.
The lunar Shivlingi route.
Exactly. That means the foundational power of America is flowing from the moon and landing on the water.
Right. And the text outlines two massive consequences of this lunar routing for the United States.
What's the first consequence?
It dictates their manifestation of the Garuda energy, the specific visual representation of their military might. Because the energy is filtered through the lunar path, their Garuda symbol takes the form of a single-headed eagle or falcon.
The bald eagle.
Exactly.
But wait, why a single head? If we look at the nature of water-based lunar power, it is about fluidity, sure, but it also requires intense singular focus to navigate. Like a ship on the ocean must have a singular heading.
That is a fascinating way to view it, and it perfectly aligns with the second, more profound consequence the text outlines. Because American energy lands on water, their geopolitical strength is fundamentally and inextricably rooted in two areas.
Let me guess. Their navy and their economy.
Look at it. Navy and economy.
We have to explore the depth of that correlation. Connecting naval supremacy and economic dominance to a lunar, water-based cosmic pathway makes incredible structural sense.
It really does when you look at the history.
I mean, if you look at how the United States has projected power since its rise to global hegemony, it has rarely been through the sheer occupation of massive contiguous land masses.
Right.
It has been through securing the sea lanes. American power is about controlling the fluidity of global trade. The oceans are the ultimate highway of commerce.
Furthermore, capitalism itself, which is the bedrock of American geopolitical influence, operates on the exact same principles as water.
Oh, totally. Capital must flow.
Yes. It seeks the path of least resistance, it pools in areas of opportunity, and it evaporates from areas of stagnation.
That's a great point. So the text is arguing that the United States did not simply, hold a meeting and decide to be a naval and economic powerhouse. They were geographically and energetically positioned to receive the Dakshinayana energy.
Which can only manifest as fluid, sea-based economic dominance.
Okay, wait. I need to push back on this waterland dichotomy based on modern military realities.
Okay, what's the pushback?
The United States has a massive, highly advanced standing land army. I mean, it has fought extensive ground wars in Europe, Asia, the Middle East. And on the flip side, Russia has a formidable navy, particularly its nuclear submarine fleet. So does the source material account for this overlap? Or is it forcing a rigid ancient binary onto a very messy modern reality?
That is a vital distinction to make, and it's a fair question. The text does not claim that a nation on the lunar path cannot possess a land army, nor does it claim a solar nation cannot build ships.
Okay, so what does it claim?
What the framework defines is the root of their hegemony, the foundational characteristic that actually ensures their status as a superpower.
Ah, I see.
Think about it. The American land army, while incredibly powerful, relies entirely on the U.S. Navy and Air Force to project it across the oceans. The U.S. military logistics chain is entirely waterborne.
That is true. You can't deploy that army without the Navy securing the path.
Exactly. Conversely, while Russia has highly advanced submarines, its historical and current ability to actually dictate terms to the world rests on its massive contiguous landmass, its defensive depth, and its massive ground forces.
Which brings us perfectly to the text's analysis of Russia. The dialogue states that Russia receives its Daiva through the Uttarayana path.
The solar Shivling route.
Right. Their power flows from the sun, and it lands squarely on the land.
And following the text's logic, this solar land-based routing has two primary consequences for Russia as well.
The first is, again, their Garuda manifestation, right?
Yes. Because it comes through this deeply territorial, expansive solar path, Their symbol of military might takes the form of a double-headed eagle.
The coat of arms of the Russian Federation features exactly that, a double-headed eagle looking simultaneously east and west. And from a practical standpoint, a nation whose power is derived from a massive, sprawling landmass is constantly surrounded. They don't have the luxury of two massive oceans acting as moats like the United States does.
No, they don't.
A land power must look in all directions simultaneously to maintain its territory.
Exactly. Which leads to the second consequence. Russia's geopolitical strength is inherently and stubbornly territorial.
Right.
The energy they receive does not promote the fluidity of global trade like the U.S. It promotes static, immovable defense and continental expansion. Their power is measured by the ground they can hold and deny to others.
Think about the paradigm shift this text is demanding of us. I mean, when you see the single-headed eagle of the United States or the double-headed eagle of Russia, you are not looking at the results of some committee meeting from centuries past.
No, you're looking at a cosmic map.
Exactly. You are looking at an ancient diagnostic map. The specific manifestation of the eagle and the very nature of how that country builds its wealth and fights its wars was dictated by the celestial frequency they were catching.
Yeah.
It implies that nations are essentially vast satellite dishes tuned to either the sun or the moon, and their entire military doctrine is just the localized output of that frequency.
It is a staggering view of macro history, but, the dialogue between Rakesh and Abhinav does not stop at just analyzing the current geopolitical landscape.
No, it goes back in time.
Yes, it uses this framework to look backward to understand how this energy shifts over millennia. Because if these cosmic highways are real, the energy is not static. It moves, it ebbs, and it flows.
So Rakesh poses the inevitable question. If this profound knowledge originates from ancient Indian texts, where does the Indian subcontinent fit into this global power map? Where is their eagle?
And the answer the text provides shifts the tone of the deep dive entirely. We move from a structural analysis of power into a deeply cautionary tale about internal decay.
Wow.
Abhinav explains that the Indian subcontinent did not just observe this global power dynamic. Historically, it actually held the ultimate manifestation of Daiva itself.
The unified cosmic power.
Yes. The source outlines a timeline, stating that this concentration of unified cosmic power in the region peaked during the era of the Gupta Empire.
Now, to contextualize this outside the text, the Gupta Empire is widely considered the golden age of India, right?
Absolutely. It was a period characterized by massive territorial consolidation, unparalleled military strength, and explosive advancements in science, mathematics, and the arts.
So, in the language of our framework, they had Garuda, Indra, Brihaspati, and Agni all firing in perfect synchronization.
They had the perfect vehicle.
But golden ages rarely last.
They do not.
The text details a critical, devastating transition. It states that with the onset of the Dwapara Yuga, which is a specific epoch in ancient Hindu cosmology, the cultural and energetic focus of the society underwent a profound shift.
And the source uses a highly specific term to describe what the region became. It calls it a bog boomi.
Bog boomi. What does that mean in this context?
It is a devastating diagnosis in this philosophical framework. It translates to a land focused primarily on indulgence, physical consumption, and material enjoyment.
Okay.
The society shifted its focus away from the pursuit of knowledge and righteous action and turned instead toward the exploitation of its accumulated wealth.
So, we have a society that reached the absolute pinnacle of cosmic empowerment, achieved massive wealth and security, and then effectively began resting on its laurels.
Yes.
The priority shifted from maintaining the engine to just enjoying the luxury of the cabin. But how does the text explain the actual mechanics of a society losing its Daiva because of indulgence? I mean, how does a party lead to an empire falling?
The mechanics are deeply tied to those four internal energies we discussed at the beginning. When a society becomes a bog boomi, the first casualty is Agni Vishnu.
Vivek, the fire of knowledge and conscience.
Exactly. Indulgence inherently clouds discernment. When the primary goal of a culture becomes pleasure and consumption, the ability to distinguish between truth and illusion degrades.
And once the radar system of Agni is broken, the engine of Brihaspati, the desire to act righteously according to Dharma, just stalls out.
Right. You no longer have the moral fortitude to make difficult, necessary decisions because those decisions might interfere with your comfort.
Which is where the external consequences finally manifest.
Precisely. The text analyzes this internal energetic decay and draws a direct causal link to the historical reality of the subcontinent. Because the internal energies of conscience and wisdom were depleted by indulgence, the external Daiva forces began to evaporate.
Specifically, the Garuda military energy and the Indra leadership energy.
Yes.
This is a crucial point that answers the pushback I had earlier about why the energies become unbalanced.
Right, the mechanics of it.
Because a society doesn't just randomly lose its military superiority. The Garuda energy, the cosmic eagle, doesn't just leave a nation because the celestial weather changed. It leaves because the internal foundation required to wield that kind of power has completely crumbled.
Exactly.
A society entirely focused on consumption cannot produce the Indra-level leaders required to mobilize the masses, nor can it maintain the disciplined Garuda force necessary to defend its borders.
The text argues that the structural defenses of the empire rotted from the inside out, and as the Daiva force weakened, the region became incredibly vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
The dialogue explicitly correlates this transition into a Bagbhumi with the devastating waves of external foreign invasions that subsequently fractured the subcontinent for centuries.
Wow.
The solar and lunar energies shifted to new vessels, new nations that were energetically prepared to actually wield them.
It is a brutal historical post-mortem. I mean, the system crashed. The era of massive unified empires in the region gave way to centuries of occupation and division. The cosmic highways essentially rerouted the Garuda energy to the west and to the north.
They did.
But the dialogue between Rakesh and Abhinav does not end on a note of total despair, does it? Did the region lose everything? Did the Shishimara chakra completely bypass them?
No, and here the text offers its most complex and honestly ultimately uplifting revelation. While the subcontinent may have lost the Garuda, the aggressive, outward-facing military energy to nations sitting on the solar and lunar paths, it did not lose its connection to Daiva entirely.
What did it keep?
It retained a very specific, enduring piece of the cosmic puzzle. The source explains that the energy of Brihaspati, the Jupiter element, the Guru Tattva, remained fundamentally rooted in the land.
So the military might vanished, but the spiritual engine survived.
Yes. And because this specific energy of wisdom and righteous teaching remained deeply embedded, the fundamental nature of the region's power underwent a massive metamorphosis.
It shifted.
It transitioned away from an ancient domain of territorial conquest and military dominance, evolving instead into a domain of profound, enduring spiritual power.
And the text provides specific historical evidence of this shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It names monumental figures who emerged from the region. It points to Buddha, Jain, and Adi Shankaracharya.
Yes, and these figures are absolutely critical to understanding the text's argument, because they were not military generals. They did not command massive armies, nor did they fly the banner of the cosmic eagle. They were spiritual titans.
According to the framework, they were the pure, concentrated physical manifestations of the Guru Tattva.
Right. They were born not to conquer the physical world, but to elevate the internal soul of society.
If Garuda is the power to project force outward and conquer the globe, brihaspati is the power to project force inward and conquer the self.
Exactly.
The text is making a really profound statement about the nature of historical influence here. While the external physical power of the subcontinent diminished as it lost the solar and lunar military energies, its internal spiritual power reached an unparalleled zenith,
Influencing the philosophical and religious foundations of billions of people across Asia and the world.
It forces us to completely redefine what we consider to be a superpower.
It really does.
I mean, is true power only measured by aircraft carriers and land armies? Or is there an equally potent form of influence measured by the endurance of philosophical truth and moral guidance?
The text clearly argues that the Brihaspati energy is the more foundational, lasting form of Daiva.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you. Yes, you, the person listening to this deep dive right now.
Right. How does this apply today?
We have traveled from the farthest reaches of the galactic Shishimara chakra, through the ancient collapse of the Gupta Empire, all the way to the modern military doctrines of the US and Russia. It is a massive, sweeping theory of macro history. But how does this ancient esoteric framework apply to the micro level of your daily life?
And thankfully, the dialogue between Abhinav and Rakesh provides a very grounded modern application for us.
What are they?
The text notes that this Brihaspati energy, this Guru Tattva, didn't just vanish into the history books with the ancient sages. It actively survives today.
Okay.
In the cultural context of the source, it survives in the common, everyday household worship of Satyanarayan, which is a ritual dedicated to the embodiment of truth.
But the underlying mechanical principle here is completely universal, right? regardless of your personal background or your religious beliefs.
Absolutely universal.
You do not need to be the leader of a global empire to utilize these mechanics. In fact, you are required to use them every single day.
You are.
Think about the last time you faced a deeply complex, brutal decision in your life, maybe in your career, your family, or your community. You were likely trying to balance your internal moral compass with the need for decisive, perhaps really difficult, real-world action.
Right. In the language of the text, you were attempting to reconcile agni and indra.
Exactly.
You were trying to use your vivek, your illuminating fire of conscience, to figure out what the right thing to do was, while simultaneously trying to summon the Purush, that vital leadership energy, to actually execute it.
Think of these four energies as your personal internal toolkit for navigating reality. You probably don't need Garuda energy-pure, unadulterated physical force to get through your morning commute or, your weekly staff meeting.
Probably not. Or at least I hope not.
Right. But you absolutely must cultivate your agni. You have to constantly tend to that internal fire of knowledge, actively clearing away all the illusions and justifications we all tell ourselves so you can maintain a sharp conscience.
And you must continuously honor the brihaspati within you. The desire to seek genuine wisdom, to find mentors, and to act righteously according to your core principles, not just when it is convenient, but when it actually requires sacrifice.
And if you fail to balance these internal forces, the text offers a really stark warning. If you focus entirely on your own material consumption, on comfort and indulgence, you are turning your own life into a pog boomy.
A land of indulgence.
Exactly. And just like the ancient empires, when you let your conscience and wisdom decay in favor of indulgence, your structural defenses collapse. You lose your ability to lead, you lose your resilience, and you become incredibly vulnerable to the chaotic forces of the world.
But by maintaining this balance, you are essentially governing your own life with the exact same cosmic principles that the text claims govern the stars.
It is a profound framework for personal accountability, wrapped in a sweeping, breathtaking cosmic mythology. It demands that we view our internal moral state not as just some private, isolated phenomenon, but as a direct participant in the fundamental energies of the universe.
It really connects the micro to the macro beautifully.
We have covered an incredible amount of philosophical and historical ground today. Let's concisely recap the architecture of this deep dive.
Good idea.
We began with the esoteric concept of Daiva, the ultimate divine energy, and explored how it fractures into four operational forces. Agni, the illuminating conscience, brihaspati, the engine of wisdom, Indra, the decisive leadership, and Garuda, the sheer physical force.
We then analyzed the mechanical routing of this energy via the celestial highway system, known as the Shishimara chakra. We traced the solar, male-dominant, land-based Uttarayana path and contrasted it with the lunar, nature-dominant, water-based Dakshinayana path that filters through the realm of ancestors.
Which provided us with a mind-bending, ancient blueprint for modern geopolitics. We explored the text's assertion that the United States operates with a single-headed eagle and dominates the globe via naval and economic fluidity precisely because it sits on the lunar water path.
While conversely, Russia operates with a double-headed eagle and dominates via immense territorial depth because it sits on the solar land path.
Then, we examined the sobering cautionary tale of the Indian subcontinent, highlighting how the shift into a bog bhumi, a land of pure indulgence, eroded the society's internal agni and brihaspati,
leading inevitably to the collapse of their Garuda military defenses and inviting centuries of invasion.
And finally, we uncover the enduring legacy of the guru element, the realization that when military dominance fades, the pursuit of truth and spiritual elevation remains, offering a blueprint for how we can govern our own internal empires today.
Which leaves us with a lingering, almost unsettling philosophical question based on the totality of what Rakesh and Abhinav discussed.
I think I know where you were going with this, but go ahead, ask it.
Well, if these cosmic pathways are real, if the awakening and sleeping of ancient energies, the routing of power through the sun and the moon, truly dictate the rise and fall of nations and the very specific symbols they fly on their flags, are our world leaders actually making strategic, independent choices? Or are the greatest statesmen, generals, and politicians simply, unknowingly, playing out the predetermined script of the specific celestial highway they happen to be standing on?
It is a thought that will keep you staring at the global map, and perhaps the money in your own wallet, in a completely new way. Are we the drivers, or are we just the vehicles?
It's a heavy question.
It is. As the source text beautifully and simply concludes the dialogue between those two friends, knowing the truth is the greatest worship.
Indeed.
Keep questioning the symbols around you, keep tending to your internal fire of knowledge, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive.